Good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. So, what wisdom can we get for these times from our Torah portion, Toldot? To place it in context, we're in the book of Bereshit, Genesis, as I mentioned earlier, moving from the generation of Avram, Sarah, and Hagar to the generation of Yitzchak and Ishmael, Isaac and Rivka. And some of the most famous stories in the book of Genesis are upon us now. At the beginning of the Torah portion, we know the famous story of Jacob negotiating the sale of Esau's birthright for a bowl of soup, of lentil soup. And in fact, many people on the Shabbat of Toldot cook a bowl of lentil soup in memory of this parshat. And the famous story at the end of the Torah portion of Isaac giving the blessing to Esau, intended for Esau, but ending up being a blessing for Yaakov instead. So, studying the Me'ah Shiloach this week, the Ishbitzer Rebbe, Hasidic teacher, who noted the verse where it says, Vayehi ki zaken Yitzchak, when Isaac had grown old, his eyesight had dimmed, he called his elder son Esau. Now we know that this is a crucial part to the story, that Isaac is not able to see clearly. And the Ishbitzer says, note the difference between Yitzchak, Isaac, who at the end of his life, his eyes was dimmed, to Moshe, Moses, our teacher, who at the end of his life died with all of his faculties intact and his eyesight undimmed. The Torah is very clear about that at the end of Devarim. It says, what can we do if we contrast these two characters? It says there's so much about them that is opposite. Isaac, Yitzchak, lives his entire life in the promised land, in Canaan, unlike Abraham and Sarah, who well into their elder years make the journey from Padan Aram, from Mesopotamia to Canaan, to Israel, to the Promised Land. But they don't stay there long. There's a famine. They go down to Egypt, then they come back, then they wander around. So Avram and Sarah are nomads. They live their lives in a journey. And Yaakov, no different. At the end of our Torah portion, things do not end well between Jacob and Esau, and at fear of his life, Jacob leaves Canaan and travels to Padan Aram. He leaves the promised land to go back to Abraham and Sarah's Medina. And so it's Yitzchak in the middle, who is the holder of space. He, that middle generation, stays all of his life in the promised land in Israel. We can talk for a long time about Isaac's character. He's a fascinating character, damaged by the Akedah, his near sacrifice, and mostly silent for the rest of his life. Moses, on the other hand, never gets into the promised land at all. His entire journey of his life is to take the Jewish people from Mitzrayim to the promised land, but he himself never gets to enter it. And the Ishbitzer says, well, why would Yitzchak, living in this Gan Eden, in the place that is promised to the Jewish people, why should he end his life with eyes dimmed, and Moshe, who never even makes it there, in the fullness of vigor? He says that as far as his understanding is that Isaac lives a sedentary life and even a troubled life. He finds life difficult and maybe doesn't find his thing that he needs to do, his purpose ultimately in life. As I said before, he's the holder of space. Moshe, his entire life is about purpose. It's about going, it's about doing, it's about taking people, leading people, teaching people. Right up until the end, he's on the job, doing his thing. So is that a message to us that we need to live our lives with purpose every day, get up and find something to do, and then we'll have the vigor and the sight, the vision, to be able to see everything that we need to see during our lifetime? I'm not sure. I suppose that for me, each of them have difficult lives. Yitzchak, for obvious reasons, we know most of his life is passive, acted upon. He's not an actor. He's somebody that things happen to. And in many ways, the matriarch of that generation is Rivka, is his wife. And Moshe is not somebody who lives a great life of peace either. He has purpose. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and he does it incredibly well. And yet at the end of his life, that purpose is foiled either, well, you can decide which reason it is that he doesn't get to cross over into the promised land. But neither does Moshe live a comfortable life. I've been reading, I don't know if any of you have it, the Stephen Fry books on the Greek heroes, mythos and heroes. Stephen Fry writes uniquely about these Greek stories. And what struck me about these stories is that the heroes, as heroic and incredible as they are, and how wonderful the stories are that we know, the stories of Theseus and the Minotaur and all of these incredible heroes, Hercules, Heracles, none of them gets to just retire in old age on the island and chill on the farm. It just doesn't happen. They all lead incredible lives and tend to die dramatic deaths without something fulfilled. And maybe that is the nature of leadership. I hope that's not true, that we take on the suffering and not the peace. But I suppose what I wanted to offer us this Shabbat in these models of Yitzchak and Moshe, of Isaac and Moses, is to say that the world that we live in right now is complex. It's complicated. It's hard to know where to go and what to do and what to say. And when we say it, people tend to be very angry about something we've said. So it's hard. It's very, very hard out there right now. And I've said before that there are hopefully common ground that everybody can get behind. But where do we find leadership in this world right now? It's very, very hard to find somebody to get behind and say, that's the leadership that I'm looking right now. And I would say that if there was a way to merge the Yitzchak figure and the Moshe figure, that would be the leader I would want right now. So as I said, Yitzchak is the holder of space. What's the only thing that he actively does in his lifetime in the Torah portion is digging the wells of his father Abraham. He is a digger of wells. He is a delver into wisdom. He is a holder of space. He is a lover and, I guess in old-fashioned terms, a gentleman. That is Yitzchak. He's the one who sits and holds space. Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher, is the one who leads dynamically, goes out, gets the people, let's go, let's move, let's go there. And that's amazing. What I think is needed right now in the world today is somebody that can get us on the path, but also can recognize that the world is traumatized, that the world is exhausted. The world's not looking to go into battle anymore. The world is looking to be held and nurtured, to sit and dwell in shalom, in peace. So give us purpose, give us direction, but make sure that that direction leads us to the promised land and that we can sit and dwell under our vine in peace. That's the blessing I'd like to wish for us. May such a leader arise and leaders arise at a time that we need them most. And may we live